Hi, my name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with Healthy Black Women and SuccessfulBlackWoman.com. I'm here with my good friend Shaquita Graham from LovingTheBlackMan.com and Atecco.com. How are you doing today, Shaquita?
I'm doing great, Noma. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. So you and I were just kind of having a quick conversation or a quick powwow before we decided to record this segment, and we were talking about, as everybody is, about Beyonce's Lemonade debut that happened this weekend. And there was one particular thing where she quoted Malcolm X. Can you say the quote, or at least the part that she quoted?
Yeah, so this is from a speech that Malcolm X did. As actually he talked a lot about respecting black women, and the quote that she used was, "The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman." And then he went on to talk about how, Muslims believe in respecting women and protecting women.
Okay. And I wanted to also add this to the conversation. This morning, Dr. Boyce Watkins, noted financial expert and the founder of Your Black World, which is the channel we're on right now, had this to say. He says, "It's not popular to say this, but single parenthood, especially in a repeated fashion, is one of the easiest ways to stay in poverty. This is true for both males and females. Either you're struggling to take care of a child without any help, or you're being hammered with massive child support payments that you can't afford. So the best way to create a strong financial plan is to try your best to plan healthy, lasting relationships or co-parenting situations. This isn't judging or ridiculing those who are struggling as single parents. It's just a fundamental economic fact." So, those two things kind of go together. But what were your thoughts on Beyonce quoting Malcolm X?
Well, I anytime we highlight a powerful figure like Malcolm X, a powerful figure for the black community, I think that's positive. I think that what was being spoken about in context related to his speech about the fact that, he says that, we should be willing to kill for our women as black men is what he said. And he feels that you'll never be recognized as men until you stand up like a man and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts, his hands on your women. So from that standpoint, I really love what she had to say, and that really kind of goes back to what Boyce was saying, because a lot of time in the social engineering that we see in our society, it tells black women that we don't need black men, and we don't need marriage, and that is what prevents us from having the protection that we will need on a physical level, a financial level, spiritual level, and in all levels. So it makes me think of those things. What about you? What were your thoughts?
Well, I'll first say this, because I've talked a lot about single parenthood in the past, and I try to refrain from talking about it because it tends to get me into trouble, because what I say and what people hear tends to have a distance between them. However, I will say about single parenthood that I think that it is detrimental to our community. It really is. I do, however, have the ability and the compassion to see that most people who end up in that situation don't choose it. It's something that just happens. Either they got divorced or they got pregnant when they didn't mean to, and so on.
True.
So it's not something that most people choose. However, I do think that sometimes, or a lot of times, it's a result of bad choices.
Yeah.
So that part has to be said. Now, the next part is, if somebody actually chooses it, is it the best thing to do? And my answer, of course, is no, because, time and time again, it's been shown and it's been proven that, again, like Dr. Boyce Watkins says, that is one of the quickest ways into poverty. A man and a woman were made for each other, and we have different qualities and different strengths that really are compatible with each other. No man by himself will do it well, or as well as he would with a good woman by his side, and the same applies to women. No woman can do it as well by herself as she would with a good man by her side. Now, the next thing is, I often hear women say, well, some of these men are not good, which it may very well be true because that's the experience, and you can't invalidate a person's experience. That's her experience. She did not have a good experience. I do think, however, that we could collectively encourage each other to make better choices about the people who we invite into our lives, and decide if a person belongs in your life long term before you start reproducing with them. And of course, there you do have a choice. Nobody's saying that you should, become a church lady who sits and crosses her legs all her life. But I think that there are choices that you can make where you can make the decisions that you make in terms of who you share your bed with, but make a decision or make a choice or be responsible that doesn't end up creating a life. I'm being very diplomatic here, and I'm not sure why, but
you are. You are nice,
I take this subject very, very seriously, and I've spoken a lot about it. And there are a lot of single women in the Black community. So when you start this conversation, sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. I can even, I have Dr. Boyce Watkins quote in front of me, and the first thing he says, it's not popular to say this, but single parenthood, is one of the easiest ways to stay in poverty. Everybody's tactful when they approach the subject, because when you're talking to Black people, you're talking about most Black women. And you and I might be the exception, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot more women out there who are single parents and they don't appreciate us getting on here and wagging our fingers at them. So that's why I'm being tactful, and I'm not saying you're waving your finger at them either, but I'm just saying that sometimes that's how it feels when people talk about the single parent epidemic. A lot of Black women, they don't respond well to that because it feels like somebody's chastising them and blaming them and pointing fingers at them, which is not, which doesn't help anybody. I think that, however, there are choices that people make that, take them into a downward spiral into poverty. And I think that people can make better choices. But at the same time, I also recognize that some people don't necessarily make the choice to end up as single parents. They got married and it didn't work out, or, he was an abuser or whatever else whatever else happens to people and they end up in that situation. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, all of those things. I mean, I think we never come on here just to wag our finger at anybody, which you did, elaborate on. But I think when we're talking about issues that affect the Black community and ways that we can bring solutions to the Black community, I think it's important for us to take note that creating stable families should be at the forefront of the solutions list. And that stable families that protect children, protect women, and even protect men are wealth. They protect us, again, on a physical level and on a spiritual and mental level in many ways. And marriage is kind of the most practical way to do that. I mean, it is a contract, and people say, well, it's just a contract. Well, I mean, you sign contracts all day and all night. Every time you're up here on the internet pressing click here if you agree. Okay, click here. You just signed a contract. I mean, anytime you go on a new business, you sign a contract. And when we're serious about nation building and reversing the social engineering that's happened in our community, we have to be serious about building families which promote appropriate examples of the gender roles in a family. Again, we see a lot of young Black children being molested. When you have two parents, you can fight against that. When you have two parents in the home, you can more easily teach values and discipline. So all of those things are important in our family. So it is not about saying to someone, well, you're a bad person because you're a single mother, but it's about saying, well, let's look at the statistics as, and I don't believe in all statistics, but I think that they, do bear some things that help us focus. So it says that I'm looking at healthymarriageinfo.org. It says only 45% of African American households contain a married couple, compared to 80% for whites and 70% among Hispanics. So they're protecting their wealth through marriage. And then it says in 1890, 100 years ago or more than 100 years ago, 80% of African American households were comprised of two parents. So we see that there's been a decline, and we see that it's not working. It says, over 100 years later, 40% of African American children live in a married couple household as opposed to 80%. So it's not working. And I think that's the easiest place for us to start, because we are going to, nobody's going to argue that we're going to be having sex, right? So if you're going to be having sex and mating and procreating, why not make it a family affair, basically, is all we're saying. And as young people, think about preparing for that early.
Right. Just to piece together the things that we're saying, I think it's interesting to note that, Beyonce did this whole Lemonade visual album, and a large part of the album was really her showing a Black woman's experience, and most of it was horrible. She was cheated on, beaten, mistreated, all this other stuff. But you notice Beyonce's married and has been married. So she can stand there and speak about a Black woman's experience, but she chooses to be married. And there is a correlation between a Black woman being the most disrespected and the most unprotected, because Black men are not in the households. I just saw an article that was put up by one of my bloggers at Healthy Black Woman yesterday that talked about how Black men are being removed from the Black community and from society. And the two ways that they're being removed is through being killed and the prison industrial complex. But in addition to that, unfortunately, we're also doing it ourselves, in the sense that we're not making good choices. We're not building healthy relationships. So I think that the enemy is that we'd rather fight the enemy that's on the outside than have an enemy that we're fighting outside and an enemy that we're fighting on the inside as well. And it's better if we all collectively fight the outside enemy, which is that social engineering, rather than have the enemy out there, complain about the enemy out there, and then be our own enemies as well. So that's just my thoughts on it. And again, this is a very big topic, so we could talk and talk and talk and talk. But I'll let you get the last word in before we close out the segment.
Well, I would just kind of piggyback on what you said. The enemy thought it was important to remove the Black man from the household. And it allows that persona of white supremacy to come in your house without any barrier, through the TV, through the radio, through the school system, and various things. So I think if your enemy thought it was a very powerful way to, infiltrate, then you should rethink your position to agree.
Right. So my name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses. This, of course, is an ongoing conversation. And I invite you guys to let us know what you think in the comment section. And also let us know what kind of topics you'd like to see us discuss here on the Your Black World channel. And this, of course, is a segment of Your Black Women. Again, my name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with HealthyBlackWomen.com. And this is my good friend Shaquita Graham with LovingTheBlackMan.com and Ateco.com. So thanks, Shaquita, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Noma. Thanks, everybody.